Hey, it's Dave Brown here, host of Now with Dave Brown on AMI. Check out this latest highlight from the show.
Soccability has just launched Canada's very first women's national blind soccer team. To learn more about this, we are joined by the team's head coach, Matt Greenwood. Matt, how's it going?
It's going good. Thanks, Alex. Great to be on the call this morning, especially at the start of such an exciting World Cup as well. It's really a great time to be around soccer in Canada.
Absolutely. You know, we're in the peak era of soccer here in this nation. So first off, I just want to say congratulations. You know, this is awesome news. It's my understanding that this is the first national blind program in Canada, period, men's or women's. So can you just tell me like a bit about how you feel that this is exciting, that it's finally when it comes to sports, you know, it's refreshing that it's a focus on the female side and the women's game opposed to being tacked on after a men's program has been established.
Absolutely. But I think one of the unique things about Canada, and when we think about soccer, is the strength of our women's team almost has kind of come ahead of the men's game. And I think that sort of happens very rarely in other countries around the globe. And it just seemed to be the natural fit and the natural evolution of what we've seen here with our Canadian women when it comes to blind soccer. This started as sort of outreach programs in schools and community clubs, probably back in 2012 or 2013. I remember partnering with Ontario Blind Sport Association to deliver some sort of come and try events. And then unfortunately at the 2015 Para-Pan Am Games, blind soccer was the only sport that Canada didn't have representation at. We could have probably put a team together at that event, but we had the world number one and the world number two, Brazil and Argentina here, who actually made it to the final. And I think there was a little bit of apprehension that we would put a team out that was nowhere near ready and would sort of get chewed up and spat out. So since 2015, there's been a lot more development going on. That's evolved to blind soccer being part of the Ontario Parasport Games every 2 years. So we did it for the first time in 2017 when it was held down in Brant County. In 2019, the provincial Parasport Games were held in Durham region, and we were able to host it in Pickering. And just this year, it was in Mississauga. So each 2 years that we've done those games, we've been able to ideally add an additional team, or at least make more concrete the teams that we have. So the last evolution this year in Mississauga, we had a team from Pickering and a team from North Mississauga that competed. And we're hoping that when we get to the games in 2023, that we'll be back in Durham region, we'll have another team there. We're talking to some possible players up in Ottawa and also down in London, so we can sort of expand those club programs. But what we did that I think was the real turning point for this female program was in May. We sort of partnered, Soccability Canada partnered with Ontario Blind Sport Association and ran a 3-day camp at the beautiful CNIB property on the banks of Lake Joseph. We brought in 15 coaches from across Ontario, 4 match officials, and 10 players who were all blind, visually impaired. And it was really an opportunity to fast forward the game, get a lot of people on the same page about what it looks like and how it feels, and being part of that family. And at the conclusion of that weekend, our guest clinician, who was the national team coach from France, a guy called Charlie Simot, pulled me to one side and said, Matt, he said, you have the startings of a women's team here. He said, give them 6 months of training. He said they could compete easily. So that was a real boost because we weren't sure where we were on the female side of the game. And that's really sort of helped strengthen the resolve of the women in the program that, hey, now we've got something that we're really aiming for. And that sort of got us to a point now where we're training more frequently and some really exciting opportunities for what we can do in 2023.
Well, and can you talk a bit about the importance of having those strong grassroots foundations, especially for a sport that is just starting, just developing? The program is just launched. So you kind of touched on how these different events and different small teams really help fuel the growth. But can you kind of elaborate the importance of having a strong grassroots foundation to build a national program?
Absolutely. And for me, there are 2 really important parts here. One is around the location. having something local that athletes can get.
I believe we're.
Local.
Hey, Matt, sorry to cut you off there. I think we're having a bit of technical difficulties trying to hear you. You're cutting in and out a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Am I clear now?
You're clear now. Sorry about that.
Okay, I'll sit tight. I won't move around. So sort of having localized opportunities is really, really important. The other thing is youth, and we're looking for the younger players, the ones that are going to come through and really evolve. We have a fantastic young player from Newmarket who's driving in each weekend with one of his parents to come and play, and he's really developed in the last 2 years, playing and mixing in with the adults that are in the program. So we want to find more of those younger players that will be that next generation coming through. So definitely grassroots club programs are really important, and we have the expertise and the background and some of the resources to be able to come and help a club start a program. And I think one of the important things from a club perspective is that there needs to be a bit of a reality check that you're probably not going to advertise a blind soccer program and have 10 or 15 players come right out of the woodwork. You may only start with one or two. And certainly that was my experience when I started a program at Pickering. It was sort of 2 players, then it jumped to 4, then maybe it was 5 or 6, and then it went down. So you have to sort of be patient and play the long game. But one of the things that we guide clubs and coaches is put eye shades on all of the players. So you could have some sighted players that put eye shades on and participate in a practice or a drill. And now you've got something that's a little bit nearer to the real game, rather than a group of sighted players with one player wearing eye shades. So have everybody sort of level the playing field. And now that blind vision impaired athlete is going to get more out of that session.
Absolutely, and part of also that growth and bringing players into the game is the leadership that the team captains and leadership players take on. So can you tell me a bit about the team's first captain, Hilary Scanlon?
Yeah, Hilary is a fantastic story, and we have a lot of great stories with all of our athletes. They have fantastic backgrounds, and I wish I had time to tell all of them. But Hilary and I connected probably about 7 or 8 years ago. I was previously working at Ontario Soccer and desperately trying to promote inclusive and accessible soccer programs while I was in that role. And so she'd sort of been connected to me via email because at that stage, I think she was a 15 or 16-year-old female player. She'd played very competitive level of soccer in her hometown, but knew that her eyesight was deteriorating and was already thinking about what the plans were for her to be still playing when she lost her sight. And so at that time, my guidance was somewhat limited because we didn't have club-based programs or a team that she could sort of aspire to be in. So fast forward to the start of just a few months before the pandemic, she came along to one of the programs that we had running at Pickering Football Club. And did really well. She'd still got all of that competitive playing ability that she'd had previously, and was now sort of fine-tuning that without the sense of sight, and had done really well. And she, at that stage, was looking to go away and do a master's degree. And I believe she got an offer to either go to Harvard University or St. Andrews University in Scotland. So very intelligent, very smart young lady, and somebody that's kind of a role model to me. And unfortunately, the pandemic sort of messed that plan up for her. But fast forward through the pandemic, and she's now actually studying a master's degree at Oxford University in England. And every chance that she comes back here over to Ontario, we get her on the field, and she's training and mixing in with the rest of the players. And she actually took the opportunity this summer to do a blind soccer course that was run by the International Federation and held in Italy. So she was there with another, I think it was probably 20 or 30 other female players from across Europe that were learning from the National Federation about blind soccer and some of the fine details. So Hilary was able to bring that back to our sessions later in the summer when she'd got back here from the UK. So right now she's back over in the UK studying, and we can't wait to get her back on the field again with the players as soon as she's able.
I'm sure. And we're running out of time, Matt, but where can people go to find out more information and maybe sign up if they're interested in getting involved?
Yeah, definitely. We have, so Soccability Canada is sort of a not-for-profit organization to sort of fill that gap that sort of isn't being served right now by other soccer associations or organizations. So we have a website, which is www.soccability.ca, which has a page on there specific to blind soccer. We have the landing page on there for the female team, and also a male team that we're working on, and that should come sort of shortly after. We're also on social media, on Instagram at Soccability Canada, and on Twitter at Soccability and then a capital C. And we try and promote and share as much information as possible about what's happening with blind soccer, with our programs, but then also from a wider inclusion and accessibility perspective, other forms of soccer that are happening across the globe and even right here in Canada, to get more people on the field and participating.
Amazing. Matt, I could talk about this all day. Unfortunately, we are out of time, so I'll have to let you go. But thank you so much for stopping by.
Oh, not at all. Thanks very much for having me, Alex. That was great. Thank you.
Do you want to dive into more conversations like this? Watch Now with Dave Brown weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern on AMI-TV, or download the podcasts wherever you listen. Do you want to dive into more conversations like this? Watch Now with Dave Brown weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern on AMI-TV, or download the podcasts wherever you listen.